You've got a city with 70% of the black folks who have a white mayor that a certain number of people obviously voted in. They've got an all-white city council. So it's one or the other. Either you're detached and you don't care and you're not participating, which is a potential, or you trust the white people that you've put in charge. Ferguson would probably be well served to just let these white folks stay in charge, because the alternative is letting people like the Congressional Black Caucus run your city, which is a complete and utter recipe for failure. If you want to run your city into the ground, let a black liberal be in charge of it.
Kevin Jackson lit a fire with that statement here on Midpoint, and it leads to an even deeper conversation. What happened in Ferguson, Missouri is only the flashpoint. According to data from the International City Council Management Association, only 2 of the 340 American cities where blacks are more than 20% of the population were overrepresented in their local government. In other words, more white faces running the show than black ones. So who gets the blame for this inconsistency? Welcome back to Midpoint. Nadra Enzi is an anti-crime activist, also known as the Hood Conservative, based in New Orleans, Louisiana. And Wayne Dupree is a former Democrat, now from the right, who also hosts a controversial radio program on the WAAR Radio Network. Gentlemen, thank you both for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Tell you what, I'm going to go ahead and start with you this time out, Nadra. Let's kick this one out. The New York Times. Here are the disparities that they talk about, and they say, here are the factors that are involved in the reason that we have this disparity. Voter apathy, especially in low visibility local elections, civil disconnect of a transient population, the low financial rewards, long hours demanded of local office holders, and voting systems that are often structured in a way that discourages broad interest in local races. Some people say it's simply because members of the black community just don't want to get involved. What's the answer?
Case in point, here in New Orleans, our last mayoral election, 14% participation from registered black voters. You know, I'd like to say that there's some white villain with remote control, but the truth is we're not voting. We're not registering, and those of us who are registered are not voting.
Why are they not registering and voting, Nadra? Why?
A lot of people feel that, quite frankly, with one foot in the financial grave and the other one on the economic banana peel, that pressing the touch screen does not trickle down into tangible results. They feel that voting simply does not matter. And outside of the placebo, perhaps, of an Obama election or an Obama re-election, they just don't see where the electoral process delivers anything for them. And that's the perennial battle that we have to wage.
Wayne, let's get it over to you then. A placebo then, I think, is a word that he just used here that Nadra talked about. Is that fair to say? And how do you then overcome that placebo? And if you can't, who's really to blame then for not making a change?
Well, I mean, the way that I look at it as is part of the leaders. These so-called leaders in these communities, they keep making the government out to be actually one side of the government out to be the enemy, and leaving them as the only choice. But then they being the only choice, they haven't done anything for the community, you know, in over 50 years. I mean, there are so many people that call in to my radio show that talk about this, and they talk about, listen, I don't trust government. I don't trust the police. I don't trust these teachers. I don't trust, but then they are only reaching out, or those that do vote on a national level, they only vote for one political party.
But now, if you don't trust anybody, then why don't you vote to make a change?
Because they have
Hang on one sec. Nadra, hold on 1 second. I'm going to let Wayne answer. Nadra, hang on. Wayne, go ahead.
To me, they have been so conditioned to hate one side. I mean, you're talking about years and years of hearing that the other side was part of the KKK, that killed their ancestors, that doesn't want them to succeed. I mean, and they don't go out beyond that pale, or they don't go beyond that fence of wanting to learn more. And I also agree with my friend Kevin Jackson. I mean, either they're going to keep the white government in power, or they're going to let the Black Congressional Caucus, who doesn't care about them in the first place, come in and just continue to mess up things.
All right, let's get to that too. Nadra, now, the Black Congressional Caucus is certainly being held to blame by a number of people here. But what Wayne is saying right here, again, it still has to come back to me and so many other people who study these issues. If you want to make a change, you make a change. You have to get off your butt and you've got to do something to make the change. So is it not then those people who are leading communities? And is it the hate factor? Is that simply why they don't vote?
Let's be very honest.
Please.
Yes, we are not voting because too many of us choose not to vote. Also, in many of these communities, if we look at the way the districts are drawn, it's a very, I'll say, interesting fact of demographic reality that white Republicans and black Democrats can unite to draw districts that ensure that both of them will be reelected, but they never have to worry about competing for either one of their constituents. So when you have lack of voter participation, and then what some would accuse of being gerrymandering on the part of Republicans and Democrats to have safe districts where you don't have to compete with people outside of whatever your particular base may be, this is the type of bleak landscape that you get. But at bottom, if you don't vote, then you can't quote.
But let me ask a simple question, and then I only got 2 minutes left. I need to put something into this. In Conyers, Georgia, Cleveland Stroud, who's the only black member of the city council, says, quote, does a council person have to be black to represent black voters? Yes or no, Nadra, does he have to be black?
No, it doesn't.
Then why then, and again to you now, Wayne, because you're shaking your head no, the same thing, why then we're still right back where we are. Somebody's got to get off their own seat, and they've got to make a difference here. Somebody's being fooled here, or else somebody's just not listening to common sense. How am I doing so far?
Well, you know what? I also look at how things are being glamorized now. You get $1 million contracts in sports. You get $1 million contracts for rap. You get $1 million contracts for all other things. That a politician has been so demonized, has been so turned into a villain that a whole lot of people just don't want part of it.
Do most people even know what politics is, Wayne?
No, they don't, and that's why they don't want to be a part of it. If somebody said, look, your vote counts. I talked to somebody at the barbershop, and they went around telling people in the community, telling the young people, your vote doesn't matter because of the machine. I was like, how do you tell young people that?
Okay, is that it? Nadra, last point, 10 seconds. Is that the biggest problem?
Yes, apathy and the lack of getting off of one's behind. Because if you don't vote, you can't quote.
Doesn't make a difference what color you are, what race you are, what sex you are. If you don't get off your butt and vote, then you're not going to make a change. Wayne Dupree, Nadra Enzi, thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us. We'll do this again real soon.
My pleasure.
All right, later on this hour, once thought to be a suspect in one killing, now the potential for being someone who has hunted and killed young women for years. After the break, Spanning the Globe features a Russian foreign minister mincing no words about the United States. It's coming up right here on Midpoint.
In Hong Kong, thousands of activists continue their protest for democracy. I'm Olga Villaverdi, and this story tops your Newsmax Now update. The Occupy Central protesters were undeterred by heavy rains last night. They say the Chinese government must respond to their demands by tomorrow. Also, Secret Service Director Julie Pearson says the security plan was not executed the day an Army vet jumped over the White House fence and made it into the mansion. Pearson also says she's ordering a full investigation into this incident. Oklahoma police filed charges against Alton Nolan. He's the man accused of beheading one woman and stabbing another in a food distribution center. Colorado health officials investigate 9 cases of muscle paralysis or weakness in children. They say the symptom may be connected to enterovirus number 68. And finally, yesterday, Denver was struck with quite the hailstorm after the temperature dropped about 20 degrees in just a few hours. And that's your Newsmax Now update.